If you're a fan of UFC, no one would enjoy this video as much as you would. So here's a compilation of some awesome UFC knockouts. Chuck Liddell vs. Randy Couture. The light heavyweight championship that Chuck Liddell had lost to Randy Couture 2 years prior was up for grabs once more. Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner's famous fight, which took place a week earlier, was followed by the announcement of the rematch for UFC 52. The two-time UFC champion was put to sleep by Liddell's signature right hand on Couture's chin after just 2 minutes of fighting. At UFC 57, Liddell would go on to defeat Randy Couture a second time, but the first knockout was his crowning achievement. Conor McGregor vs. Jose Aldo. When Conor McGregor defeated Jose Aldo in the main event of UFC 194 at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in December 2015, he cemented his position as the face of mixed martial arts. At 13 seconds, McGregor beat Ronda Rousey's record for the quickest conclusion in a UFC title match. McGregor skillfully countered Aldo, a well-known powerful attacker with a left hand that landed on the Brazilian's chin. Dan Henderson vs. Michael Bisping. Before their fight at UFC 100, Dan Henderson did not respond to Michael Bisping's trash-talking, at least not until they were in the cage. As Henderson resisted takedown attempts and damaged his opponent early on, it became clear that the English fighter wouldn't pose much of a challenge. In the second round, Henderson dropped the H-bomb on Bisping, knocking him out. In what was possibly the best moment of his career, he also followed up on it. Francis Ngannou vs. Alistair Overeem. The knockout of Francis Ngannou over Alistair Overeem is one of the most incredible and terrifying knockouts you will ever see. Ngannou defeated Andrei Arlovski in his UFC debut before being pitted against the seasoned Overeem in December 2017. The Predator connected with the Demolition Man with a lethal uppercut that knocked him to sleep in his heavyweight match that wasn't anticipated to last long. Additionally, this knockout victory earned him the title of 2017's Best Knockout. Gabriel Gonzaga vs. Mirko Cro Cop. The head kick Gabriel Gonzaga used to defeat Mirko Cro Cop was as vicious as any other head kick the former boxer had ever used. Gonzaga received the opportunity instead because of his outstanding performance that evening at UFC 70, which was intended to be the fight to set up Cro Cop vs. Couture for the heavyweight championship. The famed Pride Fighters collapse was sparked with a head kick, and many more would follow. Jamal Hill vs. Johnny Walker. Fireworks were almost guaranteed to break out when Jamal Hill and Johnny Walker faced off in the main event of UFC Fight Night 201 in February, given their past experiences in the octagon. The light heavyweight prospects combined for 20 knockout victories, 7 of which took place in the greatest MMA competition in the world. Walker, who had a bit more experience at the highest level and had some highlight reel finishes, was chosen by the majority of fans. But Sweet Dreams provided the thrilling conclusion that the audience was eager to see. It turned out to be considerably more violent than anyone could have imagined. Joaquin Buckley vs. Kasanganay. With his incredible back kick knockout of Impa Kasanganay in their middleweight championship match at UFC Fight Night, Moraes vs. Sandhagen in October 2020, Joaquin Buckley made history. In the second round, Kasanganay successfully deflected Buckley's right kick, which he then exploited to his advantage by unleashing a back kick that rendered the 27-year-old combatant unconscious. In addition to a $50,000 prize, Buckley's outstanding performance won him the title of Knockout of the Year in 2020. Jorge Masvidal vs. Ben Askren. When Jorge Masvidal brought thousands of UFC odds tickets and achieved the fastest knockout in UFC history, his name became well known. In UFC 239, Ben Askren was the target of a flying knee attempt by Masvidal that landed with the opponent's head and rendered him as stiff as wood. Finally, Gamebred finished off the victory with 2 more punches to earn the $50,000 bonus and the UFC Knockout of the Year title for 2019. Mauricio Shogun Rua vs. Lyoto Machida. After 5 rounds of competitive mixed martial arts action, Lyoto Machida won a unanimous decision to maintain his perfect record. Their first bout was nothing but controversy. A speedy date was chosen for the rematch, UFC 113 in Montreal, Canada. Instead of using his kicks, Rua changed his strategy and began attacking with his fists. He succeeded in knocking Machida out midway through the opening round as a result. Michael Chandler vs. Tony Ferguson. The lightweight battle between Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson had the best potential of being the fight that stole the show going into UFC 274, which was always going to be a stacked bill with 2 title fights at the top. There didn't appear to be any chance that the 2 men's fights would disappoint. because he had staged so many epic battles over the years. Early on, it appeared that El Cucuy, who had suffered 3 straight defeats, would triumph. He attacked Chandler and hit him hard many times. The only way Iron Mike was able to turn the battle around was with a takedown. However, in the second round, before Ferguson could even make an offensive move, the former Bellator MMA champion struck him with a front kick to the jaw that was so strong that it immediately turned off his lights. This was more reminiscent of a pro wrestling huge boot than a graceful front kick that Lyoto Machida delivered against Randy Couture. Even UFC president Dana White was shocked by the devastating shot, calling it the most terrible thing he'd ever witnessed in the cage.
Molly McCann vs. Luana Carolina.
Due to the number of outstanding performances on the card, the promotion awarded an unprecedented 9 $50,000 post-fight bonuses at this UFC event in London in March, making it one of the most memorable in recent memory. While boxers like Paddy Pimblett, Arnold Allen, and Tom Aspinall put on impressive performances, Molly McCann unquestionably recorded the best knockout. The native of Liverpool appeared to be headed for another decision victory after generally dominating her Brazilian opponent for the first 2 rounds. Instead, everything changed as the third round approached the halfway point.
McCann uncorked a fantastic spinning back elbow that connected flawlessly with Carolina's jaw and promptly turned off her lights.
Meatball didn't even have time to respond because it was obvious that Dread had finished. Quinton Jackson vs. Wanderlei Silva. Jackson had just lost to Forrest Griffin in a championship bout for his light heavyweight title. He would now have the opportunity to make a comeback at UFC 92 against Wanderlei Silva, his greatest foe. Before the third and final fight between Silva and Jackson, Jackson had already won 2 matches. The Brazilian legend was put to sleep by Jackson's left hook 3 minutes into the first round. Rashad Evans vs. Sean Salmon. Rashad Evans, the champion of The Ultimate Fighter, had not used many, if any, head kicks throughout his career. He undoubtedly counted on the one that he threw on UFC Fight Night 8.
Sean Salmon, a capable wrestler who caused Evans difficulties right away,
wasn't without some trouble though. For Salmon, it would be the first of many unsettling knockouts, while for Evans, it would be the first of many stunning knockouts. Shavkat Rakhmonov vs. Carlston Harris. UFC Fight Night 200 in February didn't have a lot of hype before it started, but it ended up having some terrific action. But it was welterweight prospect Shavkat Rakhmonov who really stole the show. Before the fight, Nomad had already won twice in the octagon, but most spectators thought that fellow prospect Carlston Harris, who had also gone 2-0 in the promotion, would be able to put him to a new kind of test. Unfortunately, Harris discovered that was not at all the case. After a back-and-forth opening round in which the competitors briefly fell to the ground, Rakhmonov unleashed hell with 1 minute left. After dropping Harris with a hook kick to the head, he followed up by landing several powerful punches too.
Tai Tuivasa vs. Derek Lewis.
Although the middleweight title fight between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker at UFC 271 was a major event, it's safe to say that more spectators were anticipating the heavyweight brawl between Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis. The two fighters had a long number of knockouts between them, and since both had crazy finishes in the latter part of 2021, it seemed like a harsh conclusion that was inescapable. Naturally, the fight was entertaining, with Tuivasa winning. The second round of the fight began, and this time, when the two men brawled, Bam Bam got the better shots in, plainly leaving Lewis momentarily dazed. Lewis hit the canvas head first, and Tuivasa, channeling his hero Mark Hunt, delivered a classic walk-off knockout without even having to follow up.
So that's all for today's video. If you made it this far, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon for more awesome content. Thanks for watching.